I don't believe in fate, but sometimes life throws you into moments so twisted, you start to wonder if the universe just enjoys a good punchline. My name's Colton Reeves. I'm 37, and up until 4 days ago, I thought my biggest problem in life was picking the right seat on a plane to avoid crying babies. Turns out, my real problem was sitting 20 feet in front of me, sipping a caramel macchiato, laughing like she didn't just set fire to 12 years of marriage. It started like this. My company was flying me back early from a corporate training seminar in Phoenix. I wasn't even supposed to be at that airport that day. Flight rerouted. Gate changed. Pure dumb luck. I was tired, annoyed, and just wanted a greasy sandwich in silence. Instead, I got a front row seat to the death of my marriage. I was hunting for a place to sit when I caught a glimpse of someone who looked familiar. I mean, too familiar. A green leather jacket, the one I bought her for our 5th anniversary, draped over the shoulders of a woman who looked way too much like my wife, Mara. I froze, heart pounding in my ears. I edged closer, pretending to scroll through my phone. It was her. No mistake. But she wasn't alone. There, across from me, was Mara, leaned in close to a man with slicked back hair and that punchable smile you see on guys who think they own the world. They were laughing, touching, whispering. Her hand brushed his forearm like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sat down 3 rows away, right in her line of sight. She didn't even blink. Didn't notice. She was too busy twirling her hair and looking at him the way she used to look at me years ago, back when we still had late-night talks and dreams about cabins in Vermont. I should have walked away. Should have been the bigger man. But something in me cracked wide open. I needed to know how far this would go. How much of the life I thought we had was actually a lie. And so, without her even realizing it, I sat there and watched my wife, my best friend, turn into a stranger right before my eyes. What happened next still feels unreal, like some bad TV drama, except you can't change the channel when it's your life falling apart. I don't know how long I sat there, pretending to be glued to my phone while my mind raced in 100 directions at once. Part of me kept hoping this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe she was meeting a client, maybe a distant cousin, but deep down I knew better. You don't stroke a client's wrist like that. You don't lean in until your noses almost touch if you're talking about family reunions. I watched Mara pull out her phone and show the guy something, laughing so hard she had to clutch his arm for support. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language screamed intimacy. She wore the smile I hadn't seen in years, not the polite smile she gave me when I asked how her day was, but the real, wild one she used to have when we were just 2 dumb kids sneaking kisses behind the bleachers. I gripped the armrest so hard my knuckles cracked. I should have stood up. I should have marched over there and made a scene, demanded an explanation, something. But something held me in that seat, a kind of morbid curiosity, like watching a train wreck in slow motion. I needed to see how far it would go. After about 20 minutes, they got up. She laughed and swatted his chest with her boarding pass like she was flirting in some high school hallway. He grabbed her hand, not even trying to hide it. She didn't pull away. She laced her fingers through his like it was the most natural thing in the world. I followed at a distance, moving with the crowd, careful not to get too close. They stopped at one of those private lounges, the ones you need a fancy card to access. She glanced around casually, still oblivious to me standing 30 feet behind her, and kissed him on the cheek before slipping through the frosted doors. That kiss shattered something inside me. It wasn't the kind of kiss you give a friend. It was the kind of kiss you give someone you're planning a future with. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and snapped a few blurry photos. Proof, though I had no idea yet what I'd even do with it. My head was spinning so hard I almost didn't notice when my flight was called. For a split second, I thought about confronting her, right there in front of her mystery man. But a deeper part of me, the part that still had an ounce of self-respect, said no. Not here. Not like this. Instead, I boarded my flight in a fog, my heart feeling like it was caught in a vice. Every minute on that plane felt like a lifetime. Images of her laughing, touching, kissing kept flashing in my mind like some cruel slideshow I couldn't turn off. By the time the wheels hit the ground back home, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to find out the whole story, every disgusting detail, and when I did, Mara was going to realize just how much damage one secret could cause. And she would never see me coming. When I got home that night, the house looked exactly the same, but nothing felt the same. Every picture on the wall, Every blanket tossed over the couch, every stupid little magnet on the fridge, it all looked like props on a stage set for a play I didn't believe in anymore. I stood there in the entryway, my carry-on bag still slung over my shoulder, staring at the life I thought I knew, and felt like a stranger in my own home. I didn't call Mara. I didn't text her. I didn't even try to check if she was still at her retreat. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started digging. The first thing I found was a credit card charge from the day before, not in Vermont, where she was supposed to be, but at a luxury hotel 15 minutes from the airport. Interesting. Next, an Uber receipt. She hadn't driven herself to the retreat at all. She had taken a car service straight to the hotel. And not just that, the destination wasn't even remotely close to any wellness center or nature reserve. It got worse. Hotel booking records under her name, with 2 guests listed. No mention of a business conference, no mention of any retreat. Just a private room, booked for 3 nights, king-size bed. It felt like someone poured ice water down my spine. I could almost hear her voice in my head from just a week ago, smiling sweetly, saying, "This trip is really important for my mental health, Colton. I need this." Mental health? Huh? Apparently, her definition of healing involved room service and a guy who wasn't her husband. I stayed up half the night putting the pieces together. Flight logs. Hotel receipts. Venmo transfers to someone named Ben T. $300 with a bottle with popping cork red heart, emoji caption. Text records showing sudden outages during times I now realized matched perfectly with her hotel stays. It was sickening how easily the truth unraveled once I actually looked. I didn't need a private investigator. I didn't need some dramatic confrontation at the airport. She had left a trail so obvious a blind man could have followed it. And still, a part of me kept hoping for an explanation. Some desperate, pathetic part of me wanted her to say it wasn't what it looked like, that I was wrong, that there was a reason for all of it. But deep down, I knew. The woman I married, the one who once cried during our vows, who once said she couldn't imagine her life without me, that woman didn't exist anymore. By sunrise, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to sit and wait for her to come home and feed me more lies. This time, I was going to take control. The question wasn't if I would confront her. The only question was, how much damage would I let her do before I finally pulled the plug? And I had no idea that the next 24 hours would bring a betrayal even worse than the airport scene, something so brutal it would change the entire course of my life. The hardest part wasn't finding the evidence. It was pretending everything was normal while I waited for the perfect moment to confront her. Mara came home the next evening, carrying a small suitcase and a fresh tan like she'd spent the weekend doing yoga in the mountains, not rolling around in hotel sheets with someone else. She kissed me on the cheek like she always did, light, casual, practiced, and smiled. "How was your weekend?" I asked, careful to keep my voice even. "Amazing," she said, sighing dramatically as she set her bag down. Exactly what I needed. I feel so much better now. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I nodded and helped her with her bag. Every moment felt like playing a part in some absurd, twisted play. I watched her unpack, lavender candles, a new hoodie, and a book on meditation she probably bought last minute just to sell the lie. Over dinner, she chatted about how transformative her retreat had been. I listened, nodding at all the right moments, even asking questions to keep her talking. It felt like interrogation through politeness. Every fake smile she threw across the table made my skin crawl. Every laugh was a knife twisting a little deeper. After dinner, while she was in the shower, I opened her phone. I knew her password. She never changed it, another piece of evidence that told me she didn't even think she needed to hide anymore. Inside her messages, it didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Texts to Ben, the same guy who'd been with her at the airport, filled with heart emojis, inside jokes, and more than a few messages that made my stomach turn. Plans for their next getaway. Talk about how free she felt when she was with him. How she hadn't laughed this hard in years. I scrolled further and found a series of selfies she had sent him from the hotel room. Some were innocent, her in a bathrobe, holding a champagne glass. Others weren't so innocent. Definitely not something you send to your husband while pretending to be at a spa. I backed out of the messages, careful not to leave any trace. I wasn't ready to show my hand just yet. When Mara came out of the shower, she curled up next to me on the couch like nothing had happened. She leaned her head against my shoulder, and for a brief, surreal moment, I almost forgot everything. It was muscle memory, years of habit, but the moment passed quickly. I didn't touch her. I just stared at the blank TV screen in front of us, feeling more hollow than I ever thought possible. That night, lying next to her, I barely slept. My mind ran in circles, building plans, scenarios, possibilities. Should I confront her quietly, give her a chance to confess? Should I explode, throw the evidence in her face and watch her scramble? Should I just leave, disappear, and let her wake up to an empty house? None of it felt satisfying. None of it felt enough. Because the truth was, Mara hadn't just broken our marriage. She had humiliated me, lied to me so easily it made me question every single word she had ever spoken. And by the time the sun rose the next morning, I knew one thing for sure. If she wanted a new life so badly, I was going to give it to her, just not the way she expected. The real confrontation was coming, and it would be nothing like what she was prepared for. The next morning, I left early, long before Mara even stirred under the covers. I told her I had an early conference call downtown and kissed her forehead like nothing was wrong. She murmured something half asleep and rolled over. That simple gesture, her turning her back to me without a second thought, somehow made it easier to do what I was about to do. I wasn't heading to work. I was heading to the hotel, the same one she had stayed at with her new soulmate. It wasn't hard to get what I needed. A few polite words, a fake story about needing a receipt for company reimbursement, and an exhausted-looking clerk handed me a copy of the billing statement. I almost felt bad for how easy it was. Almost. There it was in black and white, room service for two spa appointments, champagne service to the room at midnight, and, most damning of all, a Valentine's Day package booked under her name and paid for with our joint account. Valentine's Day. She spent our Valentine's weekend with another man while texting me that she was finding her inner peace. On the drive back, my emotions boiled in ways I didn't think were possible anymore. Anger, yes. Hurt, obviously. But also this sick, cold clarity. She didn't love me. She hadn't for a long time. She was just too much of a coward to end it herself. I realized then that I was doing her a favor by walking away. I was freeing both of us from a life built on a rotting foundation. When I got home, Mara was in the kitchen making coffee, humming some tune under her breath. She looked fresh, happy, the picture of domestic peace. It almost made me laugh. I pulled out my phone and casually placed it face up on the counter between us. On the screen was one of the photos I took at the airport, her hand in Ben's, her smiling like a woman in love. I didn't say a word. I just let her see it. She froze mid-stir. Her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. The spoon clattered into the sink. "Colton," she started, but I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Save it." She blinked rapidly, trying to regain control, switching tactics the way only seasoned liars can. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said calmly. "And probably worse." The silence that followed stretched so long I could hear the refrigerator humming behind me. I watched her struggle to come up with an explanation, a justification, something. But the look in her eyes told me everything. There was no saving this. No apology big enough to erase what she had done. I slid an envelope across the counter. Inside were copies of everything, the hotel receipts, the Uber rides, the screenshots of her texts. I had spent all night compiling it like some twisted case file. "This is your new life, Mara," I said, my voice still eerily calm. "Congratulations." Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope, flipping through the papers. She looked up at me, eyes wide with panic. "We can fix this," she whispered, voice breaking. "No," I said simply. "We can't." I picked up my keys, walked out the door, and didn't look back. But the story wasn't over. Because Mara wasn't the kind of woman to accept consequences quietly. And what she did next would make her betrayal at the airport look almost innocent. I thought leaving would be the end of it. I thought she would accept it, maybe even feel relieved deep down that she didn't have to fake her way through our marriage anymore. I packed a few bags, checked into a long-term hotel suite across town, and started piecing together a new life, one slow, painful day at a time. It wasn't glamorous, but at least it was honest. For a few days, there was nothing. No texts, no calls, no desperate voicemails begging me to come home. Just silence. And I convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, Mara understood that she had burned every bridge and there was no point trying to rebuild what she had so easily destroyed. I should have known better. It started small. One morning, I got a notification that someone had tried to log into my email account from an unrecognized device. I changed all my passwords immediately, chalking it up to coincidence or maybe even paranoia. But then came the phone calls from unknown numbers, calls that would hang up the second I answered. Then strange messages started arriving at work, and signed letters slipped into my office mailbox, filled with vague accusations about my private life and unfaithfulness. At first, I laughed it off, but the more it escalated, the harder it became to ignore. Fake social media profiles sprang up overnight, spreading rumors about me having affairs, stealing money from my company, even assaulting a coworker, all completely fabricated. HR called me in for a meeting to discuss concerns. I spent 2 agonizing hours clearing my name, knowing exactly where this storm was coming from, but having no concrete proof yet. Meanwhile, Mara played the victim beautifully. I heard through mutual friends that she was telling everyone I had abandoned her during a rough patch, that I was emotionally abusive, that she had made a mistake, but that I was always cold and distant. She painted herself as this poor, lonely woman who just wanted to be loved and had made one tiny slip she regretted deeply. Ben? According to her, he was just a friend helping her find happiness again after her marriage crumbled. It was stunning how quickly she rewrote history, and people believed her. Some even reached out to me, asking if I was okay or if I needed help letting go. The sheer gall of it almost made me respect her. Almost. The final straw came a week later. I returned to my hotel room one night to find the door slightly ajar. Instantly on alert, I pushed it open cautiously and froze. Inside, Mara stood by the window, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. "How did you find me?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She smiled, not warmly, but like a chess player who thinks she's just won. "You're not that hard to track, Colton." I stayed by the door, ready to call security if she made one wrong move. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. "You can't just walk away from 12 years like it was nothing," she said, her voice shaking now, anger leaking through the cracks. "You don't get to be the victim here. You pushed me into Ben's arms. You're the reason this happened." I stared at her, wondering how someone could lie so smoothly they started believing it themselves. "I didn't make you cheat, Mara. You made that choice all by yourself." She stepped closer. "I'm not letting you throw everything away. You owe me." I cut her off with a laugh, dark and humorless. "I owe you? I owe you exactly nothing." That was when her face twisted into something almost unrecognizable, a mixture of rage, desperation, and something else. Something dangerous. "If I can't have you," she said quietly, "then you're not going to have anything left either." And in that moment, I realized Mara wasn't just heartbroken. She was about to burn everything to the ground. I stood frozen in the doorway for a few long seconds, my heart hammering against my ribs. Mara's words weren't a threat in the traditional sense. There was no yelling, no flying dishes. But somehow, the quiet way she said them chilled me to the bone more than if she'd screamed. This wasn't about love or reconciliation anymore. This was about vengeance. About pride. I pulled out my phone slowly, ready to call the front desk, or even the police if she made one wrong move. But Mara must have seen it coming, because she suddenly smiled. That eerie, unsettling smile that told me she still thought she was in control, and backed toward the door. "You'll see, Colton," she said softly. "You'll realize you made a mistake." And just like that, she slipped out of the room, letting the door click shut behind her. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the empty space she'd left behind. I should have felt relief. Instead, dread pooled in my gut like wet cement. I didn't know what she was planning, but I knew it wouldn't be simple. Mara never did simple. Over the next few days, it felt like my entire life went into freefall. First came the financial hits. Our joint bank account, the one we had agreed to freeze during the divorce process, was suddenly emptied overnight. Thousands of dollars gone. Rent payments missed. Bills piling up. When I called the bank, they said Mara had shown up in person with forged paperwork to transfer the funds into a new shared account, an account I had never authorized. Then came the personal attacks. Anonymous emails sent to my employer, accusing me of embezzlement and workplace harassment. Anonymous tips to local news blogs suggesting I was being investigated for fraud. None of it true, but enough to spark rumors and meetings behind closed doors at my office. Enough to make people start whispering when I walked past. It didn't stop there. Mara filed a police report claiming that I had stolen her car and threatened her safety, providing fabricated text messages as evidence. Luckily, I had alibis and records for everything, and the investigation went nowhere. But the mere fact that I had to sit in an interrogation room answering questions about crimes I didn't commit felt like another violation. I wasn't just losing my marriage anymore. I was watching her try to destroy my reputation, my career, my sanity. And still, a part of me wondered why. Was it guilt? Was it rage that she didn't get to play the victim cleanly, that I hadn't fought for her, begged her to stay? Or was it simply that Mara hated losing more than she ever loved winning? Whatever it was, it became clear this wasn't about us anymore. It was about her pride, about punishing me for daring to walk away first. I moved quickly after that. Hired a real lawyer, a shark who specialized in high-conflict divorces. Froze what little assets I could. Set up monitoring on all my accounts. Changed hotels, phones, even bought a cheap used car to avoid being tracked. But the emotional damage was harder to control. Every time I opened an email, every time my phone rang from an unknown number, my stomach twisted into knots. Was it another false accusation? Another smear campaign? Another blindside? And the worst part? She hadn't even gotten started yet. Because the final, most devastating move she had planned, the one that would rip apart not just my life but my very identity, was still waiting just around the corner. I didn't know it yet, but Mara wasn't just content with destroying me publicly. She had one more secret. One more betrayal that would leave me questioning everything I ever believed about the life we had built together. And when it came out, it would hit harder than anything I had seen at that airport. I spent the next few days living like a fugitive, but one thing kept me grounded. I wasn't going to let Mara win. She wanted to drag me into the mud, wanted me angry, broken, hopeless. And the best revenge against someone like her wasn't more fighting. It was thriving. While her chaos swirled around me, I stayed focused. I met with my lawyer daily, gathering every shred of evidence I had. Photos, messages, bank statements, hotel receipts, security footage from the hotel lobby showing her hand in hand with Ben. Every lie she had told was now cataloged neatly into folders, ready for court. When the hearing finally came, Mara showed up dressed like a grieving widow, complete with a sad little tissue in her hand. She even tried a few fake tears while recounting how cruelly I had abandoned her. Her lawyer spun wild tales about emotional abuse, neglect, betrayal, the works. But when it was my turn, my lawyer calmly laid out every piece of evidence like a surgeon. Every receipt, every timestamp, every lie Mara had told in the past 6 months. The courtroom shifted. The judge's face hardened. Mara's bravado crumbled by the minute. By the time we finished, there wasn't a person in that room who believed a word she said. The final ruling was swift and brutal. I kept the house. I kept my business. She was awarded nothing beyond what the law minimally required. Her slander and false accusations were officially noted on record, barring her from making any future legal claims against me without substantial proof. Plus, the judge ordered her to pay a portion of my legal fees. It was over. Just like that. Walking out of that courthouse, the sun hitting my face, breathing real air without the weight of her betrayal crushing my chest, it felt like being reborn. I wasn't the broken man she thought I'd become. I wasn't her puppet anymore. I was free. In the months that followed, life didn't magically fix itself overnight. But step by step, I rebuilt. I switched jobs to a better firm where nobody knew the rumors she tried to spread. I bought a small house on the edge of town, nothing fancy, but it was mine, peaceful and bright, filled with things I chose, not memories of a lie. I adopted a rescue dog, a mutt named Ranger, who became the best roommate I could have ever asked for. And the best part? One evening, at a small bookstore cafe where I went to clear my head, I bumped into someone. Her name was Lila. No drama, no hidden agendas. Just a woman with a soft smile, messy curls, and a way of listening that made me feel like I wasn't just some ghost walking through life anymore. She wasn't looking for perfection, and neither was I. Maybe that's why it worked. We started slow. Coffee, walks, laughing about stupid jokes that made no sense to anyone but us. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt something simple and pure growing inside me. Hope. Looking back now, I realized catching Mara at that airport wasn't the worst day of my life. It was the beginning of my best chapter yet. Some losses are blessings in brutal disguises. And sometimes, getting betrayed is exactly what you need to finally find yourself again.